Today was not about grand speeches. It wasn't about crowns, ceremonies, or headlines written in bold letters. Today, it was about a moment, a quiet moment, a pause in time. As cameras rolled and crowds watched, King Charles III stood calmly, yet something felt different. There was no drama, no announcement, just a look, a breath, a stillness that spoke louder than words. And in that brief moment, many felt it. The king wasn't just performing his duty, he was feeling it. This is the story of today's quietly emotional moment and why it touched hearts around the world.
The day began as royal days often do. Schedules carefully prepared, security perfectly arranged, tradition guiding every step. King Charles arrived for his engagement with his usual composed presence, the calm posture of a man shaped by decades of duty, the steady walk of a monarch who understands the weight of history. Nothing, at first glance, seemed unusual. Yet those who looked closely noticed something subtle. His expression lingered longer than usual. His gaze softened when meeting people. His smile carried depth, not rehearsed, but sincere. It was as if today wasn't just another royal duty. It was personal. Emotion doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it doesn't come with tears or trembling voices. Sometimes it arrives silently, in stillness. And that is exactly what happened today. As King Charles paused during the engagement, there was a moment when time seemed to slow. No words were spoken. No gesture was exaggerated. But his eyes reflected thought, memory, perhaps reflection. For many watching, it felt like he was carrying more than just the responsibility of the crown. He was carrying legacy, family, and the understanding that every appearance matters, not for himself, but for those who look to him.
King Charles's journey to the throne was unlike any other. Decades spent preparing, years of patience, a lifetime of observing, learning, and waiting. When someone waits that long, emotion becomes layered. Duty mixes with personal reflection. Hope blends with memory. Today's quiet moment felt like the result of that lifetime. A man who understands what it means to serve, not just to rule. And perhaps that is why the moment resonated so deeply. It wasn't staged. It wasn't forced. It was human. Across social media, viewers shared similar feelings. Something about today felt different. He looked so thoughtful. You could feel the emotion without him saying a word. This wasn't about royal glamour. It was about connection. People saw a king who understands the world he serves, a man aware of change, aware of challenges, aware of the hopes placed upon him. In a time when leadership often feels distant, moments like this remind people that humanity still matters. True leadership doesn't always speak loudly. Sometimes it listens. Sometimes it reflects. King Charles has long been known for his quiet passions: nature, community, tradition, sustainability. Today's emotional moment aligned perfectly with that identity. He didn't command attention. He earned it simply by being present. That presence spoke of care, of responsibility, of understanding that leadership is not about perfection, but sincerity. Behind the crown is a man who has lived through personal joy and personal loss, a father, a son, a husband. Today's emotion may have come from many places, from memory, from reflection, from pride, from responsibility. And perhaps that is why people felt connected, because beneath the titles, they saw a man who feels deeply, yet carries it with grace. History often remembers loud events, coronations, speeches, declarations. But sometimes it's the quiet moments that endure. A look, a pause, a moment of reflection. Today may become one of those moments, not because of what was said, but because of what was felt. The monarchy is evolving, and moments like this show why it still resonates, not through power, but through empathy, not through spectacle, but through sincerity. King Charles's quietly emotional presence today reminded people that tradition can coexist with humanity. If today's moment carried a message, It might be this: service matters, presence matters, understanding matters. You don't need to say everything to be heard. Sometimes being still is enough. As the day quietly comes to an end, one truth remains. Today was never about headlines, ceremonies, or royal protocol. It was about a moment that asked nothing from us, yet gave us something deeply human in return. When King Charles III stood there, calm, composed, and silent, it felt as though the world slowed just enough for us to notice what often goes unseen. Not a king defined by a crown, but a man shaped by time, responsibility, and reflection. In that brief pause, there was no need for words, because emotion doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives softly, in the eyes, in the stillness, in the way someone carries the weight of their role with quiet dignity. For many watching, this moment felt personal. It reminded us that leadership is not only about strength, but about understanding. Not only about authority, but about empathy. We live in a world that moves fast, where everything demands attention, reaction, and noise. And yet today, it was silence that spoke the loudest. This wasn't a performance. It wasn't carefully crafted emotion. It was authenticity, rare, understated, and powerful. A reminder that behind every title lies a human story. A reminder that service is not always loud, and commitment does not always need explanation. Perhaps that is why this moment will stay with us, because it reflected something familiar, the quiet strength we all carry, the emotions we don't always express, the responsibilities we shoulder without applause. In that moment, many saw themselves, not as royalty, but as people who continue forward even when the weight feels heavy, even when reflection brings both pride and memory. And as the cameras turned away, one thing became clear. True connection doesn't require spectacle. It requires sincerity. So when we look back on today, we may not remember every detail of the engagement, but we will remember how it felt. A calm pause, a thoughtful presence, a quiet reminder that humanity still has a place at the heart of leadership. And maybe, just maybe, that is what makes this moment timeless. Because long after the crowds disperse and the day fades into history, this quiet emotion will remain, a gentle echo reminding us that sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones that don't try to be powerful at all.